What up, though? Welcome back to the Woodward Waits live on WoodwardSports.com. I'm your boy Easy. That's my guy, Spin Mo Rex.
What up, though?
Young Chris in the TD booth. Broder on the ones and twos. Beat reporter for the Detroit Lions. Thank you for joining and helping us out today, Broder.
Good man, brother.
Oh yeah, I love hanging with you guys.
Hit the like button if you guys haven't already.
Yeah.
We have a member of PFF, my guy, John Costco, joining the show. I appreciate you for taking the time, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas. How you guys doing?
Doing very good. Doing very good. Appreciate you for joining us. So, we got to get right down to it.
You're just jumping in.
We're just jumping in.
You jumping right in.
We're jumping right into the nasty. Jumping right into it. So, you did a ranking of the secondaries in the NFL, and you had the Lions under one of their division rivals in the Chicago Bears. And obviously, we know all the moves the Lions made to improve that secondary. Obviously, we still need to see it on the field if those improvements are there. But I'd just like to hear straight from your mouth what was going into your ranking of the Lions in that secondary list.
Yeah, when you bring a bunch of new guys together, I think it's going to be difficult from the get-go. You have to get down to the communication. Obviously, they have to learn each other's tendencies. The defensive coordinator is going to have to figure out, hey, how do these guys fit together well? There's just been a ton of overhaul in that secondary. And I think, I think they're going to end up maybe being better at the end of the year than what I have them ranked at 22nd, because I do like the collection of talent that they have. You have a safety and rookie Brian Branch who, might not start the beginning of the year, but I think will develop into, the starter for the team. And I think they have a potential to be, top half of the league type of secondary. But when you bring together, like, none of these guys have started together with each other. Tracy Walker's obviously returning. Kirby Joseph there, but like it's a Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Moses. These guys are coming from different locations, and it's just difficult to say, hey, these guys are going to be excellent together right off the bat. There's going to be some growing pains that come together with this group.
For sure.
So it's more based off, like, I guess, going into the season versus like your into season predictions.
Yeah, I mean, because it's hard to project that, right? Like, I don't think you can. You never can, especially with defense and also with coverage, right? So, like, one of the most unstable metrics that we have is our coverage grades, and we're working to, obviously try to improve upon that, and we have processes that are in place to do that. But really, it's it's highly dependent on, can you make plays at the catch point and limit the number of mistakes that you make on the back end, because I like I said, I like the collection of talent that they brought in, but we have to see it on the field with this group, because it's a bunch of new guys playing together. And talk about from what they did at the second half of last year, we saw how bad it was for the Lions in the first half of the season, and then the second half of the season they improved significantly, but they still made an overhaul in their secondary, and for good reason, because you can't really rely year to year on that group to to continue to play well, or even just above what they were playing. So I think I like the moves that they've made, and it's something that will over the course of the season they might just skyrocket up these rankings. And I with the collection of talent they have, like I said, I think they will. But this is basically kind of like to look at the start of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there will be some growing pains, but I think with the talent back there, those guys are going to figure it out eventually. And if they do, start to skyrocket up your rankings, if they do start moving up that board, who do you think would be the biggest influence of that? Who do you think would be the guy that's making the biggest impact? Would it be a Kirby Joseph, a Cam Sutton, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Who do you think would need to be that Pro Bowl, All-Pro type player for them to shoot up the rankings?
I don't think they need to have one single guy stand out for them. I think it's not having a weak link. So like when it's difficult to throw on any one of your guys that you have in the secondary, you have no weak links to pick apart. I think you look at teams across the league, the issue for teams that even like the Jets last year, yeah, they had Sauce Gardner that came to them, and it obviously massively boosted them up in the rankings, and that's a rookie playing at the highest level you can possibly play right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really predict that, right, for anybody. But for the Lions, maybe that's Brian Branch, right? Maybe he comes in there and just is the next Troy Polamalu, like that type of style player, and that really transforms the secondary. But you're not going to get that from Emmanuel Mosley or Cam Sutton or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. none of those guys have already been established in the league as solid players that really don't have, like you can't really pick on them. I think, you've seen some issues with Emmanuel Mosley, but I think on the whole, he's a solid player. Cam Sutton's a solid player. These guys don't have these weak links or like these they're not like liabilities in the secondary. So if they prove to continue to be that in a new environment, then I think you have really good chance to move up those rankings, because it's not one single player that's just playing out of their minds. It's the whole collection is not making mistakes.
I also want to ask too, because you cover more of like nationally. We're kind of like strictly here in Detroit, and obviously we're football fans, so we watch other guys. But you're part of PFF. You guys are the nerds that break everything down. What are the questions surrounding Emmanuel Mosley? Is it just health issues, or is he able to perform in the field to what we expect him to?
He can perform on the field. So he's a guy that will. I'd say his run defense is a weak point for him. From a grade standpoint, last year is a 58.6. Coverage wise, he was a 73.5. He's a guy that can be prone to get beat deep at times, but I think on the whole, he's going to be a consistent guy for you. And I think he can be. He's not going to be like a lockdown number one type guy, but I think in a zone corner, he's in San Francisco he played a ton of cover 4 there, cover 3. And he played that deep cap there, and he played it pretty well. But like, he does have a tendency to, maybe bust on some of those double moves and get beat deep. I think that's a tendency for a lot of cornerbacks, in the NFL. But I think he's a guy that will be ultra consistent for you guys. He might get beat on the occasion, but really he's going to be a guy that's not too, he's not gonna like be a coverage liability, break down like busts and stuff like that. So. I think he'll be, he's just going to be a solid player for you.
And then I've come onto this show. I've been I've taken some criticisms, but I have a strong feeling that Kirby Joseph can be a star in this league, at least for the Detroit Lions. He's only his second year playing the safety position last year when he, I think, tied the for rookies for turnovers. Am I being a slappy here? Am I being a slappy for my hometown Lions, or is there something there from you too, from being able to actually grade these guys unbiased?
So grade wise, last year he was a 64.0 overall. His run defense was 58, coverage 65. So none of it was like, this great, right? And I think he started off the season really strong. One of the he didn't start until week 4, and then he really kind of came out of the gates pretty strong. And then I think hit maybe a rookie wall. And then from like weeks 10 to 17, he didn't grade above a 64 in a single game. In coverage, so he went through a tough rookie spell. I did like him, from his college tape coming out of Illinois. I liked what I saw from him. I thought he was a good value pick in the 3rd round at pick 97. But he's a guy I think can, be turned into a good player in the NFL for sure. I think last year didn't really, as a rookie, I think he played decently well. He had good spurts, and then had some rookie mistakes. I think his senior year in college at Illinois, maybe it was his redshirt junior year, he graded at a 90.6 in coverage. And I think when you look at that, that's a guy that I think he's a guy that can develop in the NFL for sure. And I like what he can bring to the table for the team.
And so I like asking this to all of our guests, especially those not, focused on the Metro Detroit area, because Lions fans, us as a whole, we have a lot of hype coming in this season, with Brad Holmes, with Dan Campbell, with the pieces that they brought on offense and defense. We think things are different. My expectations personally is to win the NFC North and to win a playoff game. What is your idea of how that NFC North landscape is going to shake out this year? And do you think those are realistic expectations from Lions fans?
I really do think it is, because I think they built a strong team, and I think you look at, I think Goff is a solid starting quarterback. When you have the pieces around him, you saw what he was able to do in LA. He was able to take a team to the Super Bowl and be a winning quarterback for the Rams. I think for McVay, he got impatient with maybe he wasn't developing it at his pace that he wanted him to, and maybe he tried to expand too much with him, and he couldn't really go beyond a certain level in his playbook. But I think if you keep him in that play action type game, have some defined reads for him, keep him clean in the pocket, he's a solid quarterback that can win you games. And then you talk about having I love Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back. I think he's going to be a dynamic weapon for them. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an excellent wide receiver. If Jameson Williams can be on the field and not have any sort of issues, obviously he'll be suspended for the first 6 games of the year. I loved him. I thought he was wide receiver number 1 for me in that draft coming out. I think he can develop there. You have one of the best offensive lines in football, and like with this defense, we know that they have a good pass rush. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a stud. He was as a rookie. Obviously, he was overshadowed from a rookie of the year type season because of what Sauce Gardner was able to do for the Jets. But I think if they can build on that back end and that back end comes together, this is a team that can really compete for the NFC North title. And we have no idea what Jordan Love's going to be for the Packers. The Vikings last year I thought were massive overachievers in terms of the level of play that they had on the field versus their win total. I think they overexceeded their win total by a lot. And I think the Lions have a legitimate shot to win the NFC North this year.
Hell yeah. Love to hear it. And John,
favorites for sure.
I appreciate you joining us. And before we do let you go, I just got one quick question. I saw the Jayhawks sign in the back there, and yes. I am a Michigan State alumni myself, and my most hated player of all time throughout any sport is Hunter Dickinson. He's transferring to you guys. What are you expecting out of him, and what do you think Bill Self's going to do with those guys next year?
So I don't watch too much basketball, right? So I play football. I played football for KU. So I legitimately don't turn on basketball until it's March and KU is in the Final Four. So I have no idea. That's my expectation for the Jayhawks every year is that they're gonna play in the Final Four, and if they're not, I'm not watching basketball. So I don't even know. That's how much I like basketball.
I got one for you then before you go. Are you buying into the Bears hype like a lot of national media? I'm not so much sold on Justin Fields as a complete thrower and the entire team, to be honest with you. Am I being a hater? They're our division rival here, and they're my all-time hated team. Are you buying into the Bears hype? Is that stuff real?
I'm not. I'm not. I need to see Justin Fields deliver on the field before I'm buying into any sort of hype of his. Because yeah, sure, he's a great runner. Like we saw that last year. I think he was the highest graded runner we had at the quarterback position, but he was also grading in the 50s as a passer. And when it really comes down to the NFL game, you've got to be able to pass the ball. And if your quarterback is having those types of issues where he's turning the ball over, he's not accurate with it, they average the fewest attempts per game of any team in the NFL.
That's terrible.
It's it's not good, right? He's got to develop as a passer. And sure, the talent, they're bringing in and stuff like that. Sure, there's good pieces there and stuff like that. But I mean, he's not an accurate quarterback as it is right now, which is mainly because he struggles to read defenses and know what's being thrown at him. So I'm not buying it until we see him actually starting to shred defenses with his arm. Maybe he can be like a Lamar Jackson, type guy where his legs are so deadly that it opens up windows. But yet we have yet to see it. I know he was a flash in the pan at the end of last year and started racking up runs, but he's got to be able to do it with his arm.
John, man, I appreciate you joining us. I hope we keep in touch about the football season. I'd love to have you back on again. You're very, very knowledgeable on the sport. You want to give a shout out to where you cover the sport and where people can catch out your work?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm at PFF.com. For Pro Football Focus, I write a number of articles there, and then I'm doing data collection and film analysis for them. So yeah, check me out obviously on Twitter at JohnCosco3 or at PFF.com.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, fellas.
Real quick, who's your favorite team to do those film studies on?
So I'm a Browns fan. So that's
we share pain.
Yes, we share pain, exactly. We understand.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
You too, bro. That's dope. I'm looking forward to talking to John throughout the season too.
For sure.